The spaceship Patriot exploded in the dense layers of the atmosphere during an attempt to make an unscheduled landing on Earth. Tucker Kaufman, the director of the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, is leading the investigation into this terrible disaster. He arrives at the crash site, where the command center is organized by the military. Scientists inform him that the debris is contaminated, and the contamination zones extend 300 kilometers from Dallas to Washington. The crashed shuttle brought extremely resilient organisms to Earth that strongly resemble fungi, but one thing is clear: they are of extraterrestrial origin. When Tucker steps out of the command center, a little girl runs up to him and hands him a piece of the shuttle's hull, saying it fell onto the roof of their house. He takes it instinctively but immediately throws it away, cutting his finger in the process. Soon, he learns that curious people are stealing, touching, and even selling pieces of the shuttle on eBay. Returning home, he is greeted by his beloved dog, which, emitting an unusually eerie growl, runs away. Tucker goes to bed, and while he sleeps, his body becomes covered with some sort of film. The film's heroine, Carol, Tucker's ex-wife, works as a psychiatrist. Every morning, she sends her son Oliver off to school and then heads to her office. There, her regular client Wendy is already waiting for her, complaining about her husband. She claims that he has become a completely different person, not at all like he used to be. Wendy has noticed something strange in his behavior: indifference to situations that used to upset him greatly. Moreover, the previous evening, he killed their pet for no apparent reason, after it suddenly started attacking him. This incident has caused Wendy even more anxiety and doubts, prompting her to seek Carol's help. In the evening, Carol and her friend Jill accompany their children as they go house to house asking for candy in celebration of Halloween. At one house, an aggressive dog attacks Andy. In response, he squeezes Smuzzle so hard that it starts to bleed, but her attention quickly shifts to Oliver, who is peeling some kind of film off his hand. Carol cannot understand what this substance is, and the next day, she takes him to the hospital to see her friend, Dr. Ben, who has very warm feelings for her. Ben examines the film but cannot give a definitive answer. He involves a biologist named Steven in the investigation. Steven also struggles to identify it, though he notes that similar samples have been found in other cities. He promises to study the material and provide results soon. During the day at work, Carol meets the husband of her regular client, Wendy. Contacting Wendy by phone, she learns that Wendy is already on her way to the building. However, when Wendy finds out that her husband is there, she abruptly turns around and leaves. At the same time, a meeting is being held to discuss measures to contain and prevent the spread of a new virus. The president's administration announces that a vaccine has been developed in record time and is ready for use. While the speech continues, waiters serve drinks to the officials, who unexpectedly start vomiting some kind of liquid. In the evening, Carol takes her son to his father's house. On the way, they nearly get into an accident as a frightened woman suddenly runs onto the road. Although Carol manages to brake in time, the woman is hit by another car. When Carol approaches the accident scene to give her statement, she notices the strange, emotionless behavior of the police officer and the driver involved in the accident. The officer, with little interest, writes down her car's license plate number and orders her to leave the scene, promising that she will be contacted soon. After Carol drops Oliver off at his father Tucker's place, she goes to an evening event at the embassy with Ben. During the event, she meets a flamboyant Russian diplomat named Yuri. Their conversation quickly becomes quite interesting and profound. Yuri expresses the idea that, despite all the achievements of civilization, humans at their core remain primitive animals. He argues that under certain circumstances, people are capable of committing the most terrible acts. Meanwhile, Oliver tells his friend that his father, Tucker, has been acting very differently lately. His friend replies that he has also noticed strange behavior in his own father. They discuss this, feeling increasingly worried. After this conversation, Oliver returns to the house, where he is met by Tucker. His father looks at him with a mysterious expression and offers him hot chocolate. Oliver senses that something is wrong, and his anxiety intensifies. After dinner, Ben drives Carol home, where she is attacked by a strange man associated with the census, who tries to break into her house. Carol manages to fend him off, and he leaves. In the morning, Carol heads to work, noticing unusual behavior from people on the street. All her clients have canceled their sessions, which she finds very strange. A few minutes later, her secretary brings Carol a cup of tea and insistently urges her to try it, but at the last moment, a call comes in, and Carol hurries to the lab to see Steven. Stephen tells Carol that the sample she brought consists partly of spent leukocytes, characteristic of any infection, and partly of hormones produced during rapid eye movement REM sleep. This means that sleep hormones acted as a catalyst in some metabolic reaction. Stephen tried to destroy the cells by heating them to 370 degrees, but they survived. His colleagues in a European laboratory proposed a theory that this is an intelligent entity only a few cells in size, which integrates its DNA into human bodies and reprograms the human genome overnight. Meanwhile, Ben receives a call from the embassy, concerned about Yuri's unusual behavior. They head there and witness one of the infected diplomats undergoing transformation. Carol takes a flash photograph of him, disrupting the transformation process. Yuri, upon seeing this, attacks Carol, but then releases her and dies in convulsions because his metamorphosis was interrupted due to the disrupted rapid sleep phase. She urgently goes to find her son, but upon arriving at her ex-husband's house, she discovers that Oliver is not there. Tucker himself behaves strangely and emotionlessly. He explains to Carol that the altered people, devoid of irrational emotions, propose to create a better world. He asks her to join them. Now Carol understands that the person before her is no longer the same as the one she knew before. She realizes that his vaccination program for the flu is actually a method to infect people with spores. Carol tries to escape from the house, but her attempt is unsuccessful. Tucker, displaying frightening strength and determination, grabs her and infects her with slime. This moment becomes a horrifying realization for Carol that her ex-husband is completely under the control of this sinister influence and that he is intentionally spreading this infection among people, turning them into emotionless beings. Carol manages to escape and descends into the subway. In the train car, she finds several people, among whom one passenger realizes that Carol is not infected. He gives her valuable advice. To deceive the infected, she must remain calm and not reveal her emotions. At that moment, a group of people enters the train car. A stranger girl cannot handle the tension and gives herself away. Panic ensues, and all the passengers run to the end of the train, hoping to escape. However, only Carol manages to break free from the train. Outside, a real nightmare begins. A police officer notices that she is sweating and warns her that it could give away the fact that she's uninfected. He advises her to calm down and leave the area as soon as possible. Following his advice, Carol makes every effort to appear composed and keep her cool. This allows her to discreetly make her way to the embassy. After discussing, Carol and Ben decide to head to Fort Detrick, located 200 kilometers from Washington. However, Carol insists that she doesn't want to go without her son, so they begin searching for Oliver. While on the street, they accidentally encounter Carol's client, Wendy, who has been detained by the police. She shouts that she has already slept but doesn't appear infected. This intrigued Carol and Ben, and they head to Wendy's office to learn more. From Wendy's medical history, they discover that she had acute disseminated encephalitis, which developed as a complication after chickenpox. This type of encephalitis affects the brain's white matter rather than gray matter. Then Carol remembers that last year her son also had a new strain of chickenpox, and he was diagnosed with Ormopsoclonus myoclonus syndrome in the hospital. They realize that this information could be the key to unraveling the mysterious events and to saving not only Carol's son, but also others from the dangerous virus. Ben informs Stephen of the new information, while Stephen and the other scientists are working on creating a vaccine. At that moment, Claire receives a message on her mobile phone from Oliver, stating that he is in Baltimore with Tucker's mother. Claire then decides to confess that Tucker has infected her, but Ben promises to help her. He says that they will find a cure and do everything possible to prevent her from falling asleep. They manage to break through the military checkpoint. Den distracts attention to himself and stays in Washington, while Claire, pretending to be infected, reaches the train station and boards a train to Baltimore. On the train, Claire meets Oliver's friend named Jean. She asks him about his parents, and Jean replies that they didn't survive and now he considers her his family. He suggests she get some sleep, and Claire agrees, pretending to have turned into an infected. To do this, she applies pieces of skin found in the restroom onto herself. At the station, they are met by Tucker, and they head to his mother's place. Claire successfully pretends to be transformed, which allows her to carefully inform Ben of their current location over the phone. Soon, Tucker goes downstairs to his colleagues, and Claire finds the right moment to meet with Oliver. They stare at each other for a long time, trying to determine if either of them has changed. Deciding that everything is fine, they plan to escape from the house. However, their escape is noticed by Claire's ex-husband, and a chase begins. They manage to hide in a semi-basement, but soon Tucker finds them. In the ensuing scuffle, Claire manages to kill him with a blow to the back of the head with a hammer. They then flee to a closed pharmacy, where Claire finds adrenaline and explains to Oliver how to use it. If she suddenly falls asleep, he must give her an injection by sticking the needle directly into her heart. While inspecting the pharmacy, Claire discovers sleeping infected in the back room, one of whom turns out to be a police officer. Realizing that they have nowhere else to go and need to wait for Ben to arrive, Claire takes the officer's gun and locks the door. Several tense hours of waiting pass. At that moment, Claire falls asleep and almost transforms, but Oliver manages to inject her with adrenaline straight into her heart, waking her up and stopping the process. After some time, Ben arrives, and Claire is overjoyed to see him. However, she soon notices with horror that he has changed. Ben tries to persuade her to stop resisting, talking about how in the new world there will be no crime, wars, or violence. He says that a world where people live in complete harmony, like trees, would be ideal. But then he bluntly states that in the new world, there is no place for those like Oliver, who possess immunity. Ben unlocks the back room and releases the other transformed individuals. When they try to grab Oliver, Claire defends her son, killing all the attackers. During the fight, she wounds Ben in the leg. Claire gets into Ben's car and contacts Steven, who is in a helicopter nearby. They arrange a meeting point and, despite difficulties, break through obstacles and reach the rooftop of a building where the helicopter picks them up. After this, scientists manage to create a drug against the virus. To vaccinate the population, they use water and food, and also spray the vaccine from helicopters to cover as many people as possible. Steven gives an interview in which he announces that the virus has been defeated. He explains that the virus spores were located in the brain during rapid eye movement REM sleep, which is why people don't remember what happened and perceive everything as a strange dream. About a year passes, and Claire is seeing Oliver and John off to school. Den is sitting at the table, reading a newspaper. At this moment, Claire recalls Yuri's words, who said that people are capable of terrible actions under certain conditions, and that a world without war and disasters is like imagining a world without people. On this note, the film ends.